什么时候？星期六还是星期日？我们讲完现在那个阿那巴念萨玛他的过程，然后星期六还是星期日，看能够后天讲完，那就星期六；不能星期日，我们就做 question answers 而已。大家可以发问，我们做yoga 法会。So I was just saying that because the questions are growing and we won't have probably time to answer them all, we will always devote every week one day unique to question and answers, either Saturday or Sunday. We will see if we can finish the explanation of the shamatha part of the Anapana meditation, and we start talking about the shamatha parami more in detail, and how to link it with the wisdom parami. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vinja charana sampannano sugato lokavidu anutaro purisa dhamma sarati satta deva manusanang buddho bhagava ti swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipassiko opanayiko pacchatang veditambo vinyuhi ti supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho yadidang Chattari purisa yugani artha purisa pugala ese bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakhineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punyakhetang lokasa ti evang buddhang sarantanang dhammang sanghang cha bhikkhavo bhayam va chambitattam va lomahamso nahesatiti. So yesterday we have finished the summary of the 9 stages of samatha, and we have especially emphasized that this training, especially as emphasized in the Northern tradition, is an organic process. It does not mean that when one has attained the 9th stage, that the other stages will not come. They will come again. One will fall back. So similarly, and it is to be understood with the exercises, when these different exercises that we have mentioned, and we are going to explain them in the coming days more in detail, they also does not mean that when one has reached the stage of fixing, that one cannot go back to the stage of following. It happens, and it must happen, because learning a meditation is a process. The first step is, as explained in the Patisambhidamagga, is to attain the concentration of the mind, attain the one-pointedness, attain the dhyana. This is only really the base of the training. The next step is to detach completely from the bliss of the one-pointed mind, and to practice equanimity towards these conditions of fulfillment in dhyana. Only then one will attain the perfection which is explained in all traditions as the neither deficiency nor access in all mental factors. That means a complete state of balance of the mind. That complete state of balance of the mind is then called eka rasa, which means one taste of liberation of the mind from defilements. When the mind is perfectly balanced, there is no place in it for defilements. The mind of the arahats or of the Buddha, they are always in the state of perfect balance, the equanimity. This equanimity, we have yesterday explained, is of two kinds. Is of the equanimity of feelings and equanimity of the formations. The shou she and xing she. Two kinds of equanimity. Here we are talking of the xing she, the equanimity of the formations. The equanimity of the formations become progressively purified in different stages of the dhyana. That we will talk about maybe in the coming days, how the equanimity becomes purified by learning the second, third and the fourth dhyana. Now, for those who are not liberated, this equanimity of samadhi, or purified equanimity of samadhi, will remain only as long as one is in the state of samadhi. When one goes out of samadhi, this equanimity can go away again. So the defilements may arise. In the state of a liberated being, an arahat, or a fully realized bodhisattva, or a Buddha, or a pratyeka Buddha for himself, this state of equanimity cannot be abundant. If it is abundant, the defilements will come. So the liberated person is always in the state of equanimity. It does not mean that he does not taste good food, he does not see good forms, he does not hear good sounds. He hears them much more intensively than non-liberated persons because his faculties are completely clear. But he is detached. This taste of detachment is the taste of shamatha and vipassana. There is no question of deep shamatha and vipassana without detachment. So the training in shamatha and vipassana is nothing but the training in detachment. When shamatha and vipassana becomes a habit, detachment becomes a habit. Now, because shamatha and vipassana is not a habit, therefore detachment is not a habit. That's why the defilements can still have continuity. If shamatha and vipassana becomes a habit, the defilements will not have continuity. Because the mind becomes sensitive and does not and drops the defilements as soon as they come. In the state of liberation, they don't come because the liberated person is always equanimous. The liberated person has so-called chal anga upekha, the equanimity in regard to the 6 doors. This is what is to be trained. Equanimity in regard to the colors, equanimity in regard to the sounds, smells, tastes, touch, and mental objects. He experiences them with great intensity, but he is not attached. That's how his faculties become completely clear. Even in the daily life, if you can detach from the senses, you will feel the tastes and the smells and the touch so much more intensively. If one has not a concentration, the intensity of his experience will always be limited. It is the concentration which makes the intensity of the experience. We have specially emphasized it. Because one who has concentration becomes very sensitive, therefore his main concern is to protect his mind. There is a saying in the Dhammapada, Chittam rakheya medavi chittam gutam sukhavaham. The one who is wise, he is always engaged in protecting his mind, because he knows that only the mind which is well protected, it has the ability to give happiness. So those who do not have deep experience of deep concentration, their main concern is the search for happiness outside. Those who have deep concentration, they understand, they become sensitive, therefore they protect their mind and their concern becomes turned inside. In all traditions of yoga, the condition for absorption of the mind, for dhyana, for chan, is that the body and the mind become isolated. This is what you are trying to practice by means of the breath. What means the body becomes isolated? It means the eyes are not concerned with the colors outside, ears are not concerned with the sounds outside, the tongue and the nose is not concerned with the smells outside, and the body is turned, the attention is turned inside, into mind. The breath, meditation on the breath is the supreme means of turning attention inside. As far as Buddhism is concerned, and all schools of yoga emphasize the same thing, the wisdom can only appear when the mind is turned inside. This is the first principle of yoga to be understood. So when you practice the exercises, when you practice the breathing, it is for turning the attention inside. Only then you will be able to understand really what is going on and enter into the process of purification of body and mind. The isolation of the mind comes as a result of the isolation of the body. Xian you shen li, zai hui you xin li. And isolation of the mind means the mind is not concerned with the object of the senses it has experienced in the past. It does not search for the objects of the senses in the future. It is not concerned with ideas connected with this. It stays with the present meditation object, with the present occupation of the mind. So, all the unnecessary thinking, all the troublesome ideas churning in the head, they step by step disappear, or they are no more troublesome because the mind is not concerned with them. Why the thoughts trouble us? Because the mind is concerned with them. When the mind is not concerned with them, they do not trouble us. The thinking is just thinking. There is no such a thing as a thinker, truly speaking. And those ideas connected with the thinkers are also connected with the objects that do not really exist. The mind holds to the ideas because of the idea of the reality of the thinker. The same can be said about the one who feels, the feeler, the perceiver, and the one who wills. So, by not holding to the ideas drop by themselves. Then the mind can turn on itself, and only the mind which turns on itself can develop the true wisdom. So the real process of learning shamatha and vipassana is to be understood in this perspective. If you learn shamatha and vipassana to gain something, gain some pleasure, gain some something for yourself, you are working against yourself. But in the beginning it is necessary, still a clear concept is very essential. So now we come to our topic again. We have mentioned 9 stages of shamatha. These 9 stages of shamatha overcome 6 obstacles. These obstacles, they are called doshas. Dosha means literally mistake. Why mistake? Why our mind is not at peace? You should understand very clearly. According to Buddhism, the defilements are not the natural state of the mind. They are thoughts of the mind. Just like when in a dark place you see a rope, you're likely to mistake it for a snake. But the snake is not the rope. It only appears as a rope. So the nature of the mind is not defilements. It appears to be defilements only due to the darkness of ignorance. So, in order to remove ignorance, we have to understand the true nature of the mind. In order to show that ignorance is not the true nature of the mind, Buddha explained the dependent origination starting with ignorance. Due to ignorance appear will formations, due to will formations appear samsaric mind, due to samsaric mind appear the corporeality and mentality, due to corporeality and mentality appear the six bases, due to six bases appear touch, due to touch appear feeling, and due to feeling appears all kinds of attachments which keep us in samsara. So ignorance introduces us into samsara, and the attachments keep us in it. So it is very important to understand that this nature of mind with defilements is a fault of the mind. When my mind has thoughts, whatever I think will be only a distorted thinking. That which removes the thoughts is called prahana samskara. Prahana samskara means the formations abandoning the thoughts. One has to become familiar with the thoughts in order to see clearly which formations of the mind can abandon the thoughts. And another aspect is the powers of the mind. The mind can only abandon the thoughts if it counters them with positive powers. So here we come again to our model. The first thought we have already explained being the laziness. And we have explained that the laziness is abandoned by the first thought of the mind. Laziness is abandoned by 4 mental formations capable of abandoning the laziness. And we have to add to it 2 powers. Which 2 powers? The power of wisdom through hearing and the power of wisdom through contemplation. Why? Because you will not develop a strong faith in what you're doing, you will not develop enthusiasm for what you're doing, you will not develop effort in what you're doing, and the fruit of effort, that means clarity and relaxation, unless you understand what you do. And how will you understand what you do? By hearing more the Dharma, and hearing is not enough. One has to contemplate about it. Then one's faith will become strong and one's determination will become strong. Now just think how much time you spend contemplating about the Dharma, how much time you think contemplating about your house problems, work problem, your all kinds of daily concerns. The one who succeeds in meditation, he spends more and more time contemplating about what he has heard, the Dharma, because he knows that that Dharma is taught in order to abandon suffering, and the suffering is his main concern. So he will put on effort into his practice, and he will practice with enthusiasm because he has contemplated about the necessity of practicing Samatha and Vipassana. And he knows and is firmly convinced that those who have practiced Samatha and Vipassana, they have attained what he wants to attain. And they have attained what they have attained because they have practiced correctly. So he wants to make sure that he is practicing correctly. So he thinks about Dharma and contemplates the Dharma, so he gets a clear picture what is there to do. So this power of hearing, from power coming from wisdom, from hearing. Nowadays we don't hear so much, we do more reading, but it is the same thing. First we get the informations, but informations is not enough. Some people study Buddhism in order to criticize Buddhism. One has to understand the meaning of the teachings by contemplating about them. Then they not merely words and terms, they become a real experience. This experience is then digested in meditation. So the object of the contemplative wisdom are not merely the words, it is also the meaning of the words which one grasps clearly. Only when one has grasped clearly the teachings, they will become part of him which can never go away. If one has not grasped them, they will not become part of his like learning for an examination. When one has passed the examination, one will forget whatever one has learned. But by contemplation on what one has learned, one will not forget it. It will always come whenever one needs it. Why? Because one has grasped the meaning, not just the words. The meaning which has been grasped is then digested in the meditation. The Samatha and Vipassana is there in order to digest what one has grasped. That's why it is so important to contemplate on what one learns. That is why when one has contemplated about the teachings, one will practice mindfulness diligently. So the first thought is laziness. The second thought is sampramosha. That means literally, it means the stolen mindfulness, the mind. That means the meaning of the teachings. Are not grasped. One forgets the meaning of the teachings. Then one also forgets the meditation object. And one thinks about, again, any other troubles at home, at work, and the mind turns away from meditation. So that's why, as a result of crystallizing the wisdom of contemplation, the power of mindfulness, or the mindfulness, becomes established. So the power of mindfulness is a third power after power from wisdom, from hearing, from wisdom, from contemplation, comes the power from practice of mindfulness. And the mindfulness removes negligence. The opposite of mindfulness is negligence. Negligence means to let the defilements have continuity when they have arisen. If one is negligent, one will fall back into laziness. Only when one is not negligent, one will not fall back into laziness. When one will not fall back into laziness due to the power of mindfulness, the power of awareness will be established. So the defilements cannot have any continuity. They occur like bubbles on the surface of the water and burst again. Well, if you want to make a real progress in meditation, you should get into that stage. At that stage, one is able to tolerate all kinds of unpleasant feelings. Because one is concerned with the mind and its defilements, not concerned with anything else. And one is concerned with the pain only in the sense of using some more subtle means to avoid it. So the pain becomes a teacher in this stage. It is not anymore a scourge, but a teacher. When the awareness and mindfulness is well established, one will find many skillful means to deal with unpleasant feelings which are bound to occur. If mindfulness and awareness is not established, the very difficult to deal with pain. The one will be concerned with pain and the mind will not get the peace. So the subtle states of the mind and subtle states of the body are opened by the practice of awareness. Without awareness, these subtle energies will not become a clear object of perception. The practice of long sitting is indeed a very effective practice for developing mindfulness and awareness, and for developing the skill in healing oneself. Now I will tell you some interesting story, which I like to tell. When I was a monk in Myanmar, in Burma, once our teacher took us to a city adjacent to Pa Auk, which is called Mudon. And in Mudon there is one famous monk called Mudon Sayadaw. That Mudon Sayadaw is very, very old monk. I don't know, I think now maybe well nearing 100 or over 100. And his method of meditation is very simple. He just guides those who come to his monastery to sit. And many people come to him with all kinds of diseases, mental diseases, even cancer, even all kinds of hindrances in the body, all kinds of handicaps. He, with great compassion and loving kindness, he just tells them to sit and relax. And endure. Unfortunately, in Burma, they don't pay much attention to the posture in meditation. Even so, it is a very important part of the tradition. And the Mudon Sayadaw does not take much trouble to explain how to sit. He just makes the people sit. And many of the people learning there, they sit like sacks of potatoes, like this. But they sit whole day. And they become cured of all kinds of diseases. You name it, it will be cured. How do they do it? They just sit there, and the Sayadaw teaches them not to change posture, just to endure. So in order not to change posture, they develop some kind of mysterious intelligence. So they must be suffering like, I have no comparison, like the torture in Middle Ages, where they took apart your body in China, Lingzhi, cutting the body into pieces, but they continue sitting with the kindness and encouragement of the Mudon Sayadaw. They continue sitting and endure. Then, unless they develop mindfulness and awareness, they just can't do it. So he tells them, if you can sit 2 hours, try 2.5. If you can sit 2.5, try 3. If you can sit 3, try 4. If you can sit 4, try 5. And just taps them on the shoulder and say, you are a man, you are a brave, so don't worry, you will overcome it. And so they continue sitting. So these people, they have big faith, big enthusiasm, big determination. So all these things, they just come. So when one suffers, one gets some mysterious kind of intelligence how to avoid suffering. But one has to suffer with certain kind of understanding. Otherwise, will never succeed. So, if one determines to tolerate suffering, one will definitely find some way to develop certain insight how to deal with suffering. If one does not confront suffering, that insight will not come. So this power of mindfulness and awareness has to be there. Then one will find all kinds of skillful means how to help oneself. If they are not there, these skillful means will not be clear. Just like when one is thrown into the water, one will have to swim or die. So one will learn swimming very quickly. So that is why there has to be certain determination. Then when one understands, when the power of mindfulness and awareness is established, then the defilements of the body and of the mind and the hindrances also will manifest in the process of breathing. Everything becomes somehow clear. When the power of mindfulness and awareness is not established, the things are in a state of unclarity. The obstacles can only be removed when they are seen clearly. When they are not seen clearly, they cannot be removed. And they will be seen clearly only when one has will and enthusiasm to confront them. So this much about our Mudon Sayadaw, who miraculously cures all kinds of diseases just by making people suffer, learn to suffer with wisdom. So now, because when the power of mindfulness and awareness has ripened, even as we have said, the small thought of sinking of the mind and excitement of the mind is seen very clearly. So the meditation is very different. Bodily feeling is also very different. Why? Because by power of mindfulness and awareness, one starts to see very clearly the intimate connection of breath, body and mind. And they start to appear as one. That's what is meant by following the breath. One also follows the mind, watching the breath, and follow the body, which is a base for the breath. So the three are followed at the same time and become crystal clear. At this stage, the every thought of sinking mind and the excited mind will be seen very clearly. And again, we cannot stop emphasizing, only when the obstacles are seen clearly, one will find wisdom to remove them. Just like only when the meditation object is clear, there is a deep shamatha and vipassana. Without the clear meditation object, no question of shamatha vipassana. And shamatha and vipassana is nothing else but the process of gradual removal of hindrances, nothing else. And the hindrances will only be removed when they are seen very clearly. When they are not seen clearly, they will not be removed. This is true about the body, this is true by the breath, and how much more about the mind. All those who have learned meditation, they have learned meditation by facing hindrances, facing difficulties, and learning from them. Because they have learned from the hindrances, their hindrances become more and more subtle until they finally can disappear. If one does not learn from hindrances, they can never become subtle, and they will never disappear. So it is by practice that one becomes aware of hindrances. Without the practice, one will never become aware of hindrances. So by a process of growing of mindfulness and awareness, which is an organic process, the hindrances will be clearly seen. When the hindrances are clearly seen, the mind learns to work effortlessly. When the mind works effortlessly, everything can be accomplished. So when the hindrances become subtle, the mind then learns to work with equal effort. That mind attunes to samadhi in a natural way. So after the power of mindfulness and awareness has grown up, the power of equal effort or of equal engagement can grow. When this power of equal engagement has grown and one becomes familiar with it, one only needs the power of repeated practice to make the samadhi a natural state. So, let us now summarize the 6 faults. Which are the 6 faults? Fault of laziness, fault of forgetting, fault of thinking, fault of excitement, and fault of too strenuous engagement and too loose engagement in the practice. When these faults have been removed, the mind discovers its purity. When the mind discovers its purity and becomes familiar with it, then this purity becomes the main concern of the mind. this way, by making meditation the main concern, the one will be able to liberate oneself from the burden of suffering. So, which are the 8 prahana samskaras, the 8 powers which remove the 6 faults, the 8 powers abandoning the 6 faults. The first is faith, the second is enthusiasm, the third is effort, the fourth is clarity and relaxation. The fifth is the mindfulness, awareness, will, and equanimity. And the 6 powers, the first one is power of wisdom from hearing, power of wisdom from contemplation, power of mindfulness, power of awareness, power of equal engagement, and power of habit. Power of habit makes the world different. I always emphasize what we are our habits. When the meditation becomes a habit, only then it can transform the personality. Otherwise not. So let us leave it here, and tomorrow we will continue with the subject in a more, so far was more general, so we return to the concrete, to the nose again, and summarize what we have learned together with the nose or with the whole body again, so that you get a complete clarity, and we add some useful hints how to some of the things explained in the Southern tradition in Visuddhimagga and in Patisambhidamagga are very useful for completing the picture and getting the clear idea how to proceed. So that much for today.